G'day everyone, welcome back to another video on the channel, and today we're going to be going over every AFL team's biggest bogey team in their history as well as currently. Essentially, we're going to be going over the longest losing streaks both historically and currently against a certain AFL side, and I'll be going through these in alphabetical order. So of course we'll be starting at Adelaide and we'll be finishing off the Western Bulldogs. So let's just get right into it. Hopefully you guys do enjoy the video. First up, we've got Adelaide Crows. Adelaide's longest losing streak against a certain side is just the 7 losses against Hawthorn and Port Adelaide. However, I will just cover the most recent of the 2 occurrences, which was between round 3 of 2012 and round 5 of 2016, in which Adelaide lost to Hawthorn 7 times, whilst their current longest losing streak against a certain club is West Coast with 5 losses, spanning from round 10 of 2019 to now. And with Adelaide not going so great at the moment, the Eagles could pinch a few more wins to, reclaim the spot over the Hawks and the Power to be the team that have the most wins in a row against the Crows. Next up, we've got Brisbane, and their longest losing streak against a certain club is Richmond, and this spanned between round 13 of 2010 to round 10 of 2020, with Brisbane's famous qualifying final win against the Tigers in 2020 being the game to end the streak. And Brisbane's current longest losing streak against a certain club is only just the 2 losses in a row, and this is between 3 sides in the Bulldogs, the Hawks and the Demons. And next up, we've got Carlton, and they have 3 instances in which they had their longest losing streak against a certain club, all being 14 losses in a row. First one being Hawthorn between 2005 to 2016, then between 1897 to 1902 for Essendon, and then again from 1897 to 1902 the Blues lost 14 games in a row to Fitzroy, with their current longest losing streak being 11 losses against the Tigers, spanning from round 2 of 2014 to currently. So there is a massive chance that Carlton's longest losing streak against a certain club could be broken in the coming years if the Blues can't pinch a win against the Tigers. Now, the next team we've got is Collingwood, and their longest losing streak in a row is just 10 losses, and this is between 1994 to 2000 against the Eagles, with the Pies' longest current losing streak against a certain club being the Giants, with only just the 4 losses in a row, spanning from round 18 of 2019 to current day. The next team we've got is Essendon, with their longest losing streak being 13 losses in a row against the Blues, and this lasted from the semi-final of 1968 to round 10 of 1974, with their current longest losing streak against a certain club also creeping up on them, which in this case is against the Tigers, similar to the Blues, 11 losses in a row as well, and this spanned between round 20 of 2014 to present day time. So both the Blues and the Bombers have lost 11 games in a row against the Tigers, and they could both break their longest historical losing streak against a certain club in the coming years if they don't pinch themselves a win. The next up we've got is Fremantle, and their famous longest losing streak against a certain club was against their crosstown rivals in West Coast, and this lasted between round 20 of 2015 to round 7 of 2021. Obviously, the Dockers finally beat the Eagles in the closing rounds of 2021, with their current longest losing streak now only being 5 losses against the Bombers, surprisingly, and this lasted from round 18 of 2018 to now. The next team we've got is Geelong. Their longest losing streak was 14 games, and this was against the Pies, and this spanned over 100 years ago from 1901 to 1907. And unsurprisingly, their current longest losing streak is against the Demons, with the 3 losses, but 3 pretty famous losses, especially the last 2. Obviously, all 3 of those games being played in 2021. The next team we're going to be going over are the Gold Coast Suns, and their longest losing streak in history is also their longest current losing streak, and this is 12 losses in a row against the Power, spanning from round 9 2012 to the current day. Now, funnily enough, the first ever game between the 2 sides, the Suns actually got the job done. This is not only was it their first win against the Power, but it was their first win in AFL history. It's been 11 long years now since the Suns have beat the Power. I don't really see the next time the Suns are going to get a win over the Power, so this streak could last a fair while. The next up we've got GWS, and this is quite an interesting one, with their longest losing streak being 5 losses in a row. However, this is shared amongst 5 sides, so West Coast, Richmond, North, Collingwood and Adelaide. All 5 of those teams, they've had a losing streak of 5 occurrences. And then also, their current longest losing streak is just the 2 games. However, this was shared between Bulldogs, St Kilda, Port Adelaide and Brisbane. So I've essentially named half of the teams in the AFL, and this is only just for the Giants. Next up, we've got the Hawks, and this is quite a significant one because their longest losing streak against a certain club is actually the longest losing streak against a certain team in history for any side. And this was against Collingwood, and it was 29 losses in a row. Can you believe it? Spanning from round 3 of 1925 to round 13 of 1941. Now, the Hawks entered the competition in 1925, meaning that for their first 29 games they've ever played against the Pies, they did not record a single win. and I'm pretty sure their first win against the Pies was 17 years later in 1942. You can just imagine that. I feel like this is one of those records that'll just never get beaten again in AFL history. I just can't see an instance where a team loses 29 games in a row against a particular club. Comment down below if you reckon that record will ever be broken again in history. Whilst the Hawks' current longest losing streak against a certain club is shared between the Saints and the Dockers, with 3 games lost apiece. Now next up we've got the Melbourne Demons, and just like the Hawks, their losing streak is quite massive, with them losing 22 games in a row against the Hawks between Round 13, 1973 to Round 3, 1984, with their longest current losing streak being just the 1 game, and this is obviously because they won the flag. They was super successful last year, only losing once to the Giants and the Pies in their recent outings. Now next up we've got North Melbourne, and just like the D's and the Hawks share another massive losing streak, this time being against Geelong, with 23 losses in a row during this time. And this spanned between round 12 of 1925 to round 7 of 1939. So just like the Hawks, North Melbourne entered the competition in 1925. However, funnily enough, the first ever game between the two sides, North Melbourne actually got the chocolates, but then the next 23 games against the two sides, Geelong got the chocolates. So bit of a strange one. Whilst North Melbourne's current longest losing streak against a certain club is also against the Cats, with it spanning all the way back since round 12 of 2016. Now, the next team we've got on this list is Port Adelaide, and their longest losing streak against the club in history is against Geelong. And this was 10 losses in a row, which spanned from the infamous 2007 Grand Final to, I guess, another final that was quite infamous for the Power, the semi-final in 2013. Now, Richmond feature again in this list, and their longest losing streak was against the Blues, with them losing 24 games in a row against the Blues. And again, this feat was achieved as a club that just entered the competition, with the Tigers entering the competition in 1908, and they wouldn't win a single game until 1918 against the Blues, with the Tigers' current longest losing streak only being the 2 games, which sort of surprised me given their drop of form in the 2021, and this was between the Geelong, with their 2 losses being in 2021. The next team we've got St Kilda, and you'd probably expect that the Saints would be quite high up on the list in terms of the amount of losses they've had. And yeah, well, they lost to Essendon 23 times in a row, spanning from round 17, 1944 to round 9, 1957. And again, doesn't shock me. Geelong have featured on this list now 4 times in a row, and the Saints' current longest losing streak is against the Cats. 6 losses in a row, spanning from round 5, 2007 to present day times. The next team we've got on this list is Sydney, which obviously used to be known as South Melbourne before they merged. Now, their longest losing streak was against Collingwood between 1924 to 1933, and I'm pretty sure they won the flag in 1933 as well, so it would have been around the same time where they broke the streak. Whilst Sydney's current longest losing streak is against Port Adelaide, in which they lost 5 games in a row, spanning from round 1, 2017 to present day time. So the Power have played the Swans only once over their last 5 seasons, for 5 losses. Now, next up we've got West Coast, and their longest losing streak was only just the 8 games against Sydney between 2008 to 2014, whilst the Eagles' current longest losing streak is just the 3 losses, and these are shared between the Dogs and the Lions. And the last team that we are going to be featuring on this list is the Western Bulldogs, and their longest losing streak against a team is against Collingwood. And compared to a few of the other Victorian clubs, for the Dogs, I'm a bit surprised it's just 14 losses, with the Dogs losing 14 games in a row between the Pies from 1977 to 1983. Given the Bulldogs' recent success over the past couple of years, the current longest losing streak is just the 2 losses between both the Cats and the Tigers. So there we go, guys. Those were every single team's biggest bogey team in their history, based solely on the longest losing streaks against a certain AFL club. Now, I did say before, at the end of this video, we'll go over the teams that featured the most and the least in this video. And the Cats and the Pies have both featured 6 times, with the Power and the Tigers featuring 5 times. As we move down to the bottom end of the chart, we've got the Crows, the Dockers, the Swans, North Melbourne, and Fitzroy only featuring once. And last on the table, the Suns have not featured a single time in this video, and it's not surprising. I mean, whose longest losing streak is going to be against Gold Coast? Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, if you'd like to see more of these statistical sort of vids over the next couple of weeks, let me know. I'm planning on getting at least 1 or 2 more out before the preseason really starts kicking in, and I am excited for the content that's to come over the next few weeks. If you've got any video ideas, feel free to drop them down below. But other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and we'll see you soon in my next one.